So this is the Silver Lake History Collective, April 8th, Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Koi Pham is on the camera. I'm Cheryl Revkin, and we're interviewing the owner of Say Cheese. Right. Your name is Glenn Harrell, right?
Harrell, yes.
Harrell?
Yes.
Oh, thank you for saying. Okay, Glenn. Well, first of all, I guess why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, your family growing up. You said you grew up around here? Right?
I did, yes. I'm a native, third generation, right here in Silver Lake. I went to Lockwood Elementary, I went to King Junior High School, and I went to John Marshall High School, graduated with honors. I was really big in speech and debate and theater.
Yes. And theater?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And what did you think you wanted to do when you graduated?
I always, ultimately, there was two things that I kind of couldn't make my mind up on what I wanted to do exactly. I ended up going to college and doing communications with a theater arts minor. And I often say that I wasn't good. I was really fantastic.
What college?
I had gone up to De Anza in Santa Clara, and then I went to Pasadena City College. And
so you weren't good at theater? Is that what you're saying? Or?
I always say that I wasn't good. I was super great at it. I was fantastic. And the reason why I say that to be funny.
Yeah.
But the only reason why I didn't pursue it because I went on a number of interviews and it didn't work for me when I was rejected by saying that I wasn't tall enough, I wasn't short enough, I wasn't dark enough, I wasn't light enough, I wasn't big enough, I wasn't small enough, and none of that worked for me. Being that my grandparents and my parents gave me all the confidence in the world, and I'd be darned that I let someone drive me to drink or do drugs or, feel like
inadequate
and that, I'm not worthy. So it didn't work for me.
So when you actually went for auditions, you're saying?
Yes, I did.
And before that, like in college, you knew you were great as an actor?
Absolutely, yes, yes. And so I come from a family of foodies. My grandfather was a professional trained chef. My grandparents were amazing in the kitchen. My mom, I tried to get her to go to culinary art school, but she always felt that it was too late. But the woman could really cook. And so a lot of times people ask me, did you live in France? How is it that you know so much about food? I always had something that I can compare it to. I wasn't the kid that, my parents took me to McDonald's. My mom cooked at home 5 days out of the week, and it was serious cooking. And I sat in the kitchen and watched her prepare, and ultimately that's what really got me into the food industry.
Interesting.
So I worked in, different restaurants. I used to work at Green Blatt's, which was a gourmet deli that's very well known. When I lived up north and was going to De Anza, I would get on the train and go to Palo Alto and go to Neiman Marcus, and they had, at the time, a beautiful Epicurean department, and they would slice their beautiful hams, and they would have these gorgeous salads in the case, and I thought, I want to own something like that. I want to be that person. I'd go to Mendocino and go to some of these beautiful boutiques that just had amazing charcuterie and cheeses and, the retail items that was for gourmands, and I kind of always I saw myself owning a shop like that. And short of the long, I had gone to Europe when I was 28. It was 1996. And I lived in London for 3 months, and then I traveled throughout Europe got a Euro
Pass,
pass,
yeah.
and went all over to Florence and throughout Italy and
And
Switzerland.
eat your way through.
I ate my way through
Europe, yeah.
I really did. I could not really afford to eat in all the beautiful restaurants, but I was told before I left from the States, you know, what to do and how to do it. I stayed in youth hostels, and I went to places like Galerie Lafayette and Beaumarchais and bought wine and charcuterie and cheeses and went back to the youth hostel and shared it with people who I had become friends with.
Yeah, your
And
new
that's
friends.
what we did.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And did you go to, so you went to Europe after you graduated from college and before you really had like a permanent kind of vocation or job?
Much longer. It was about 7 years afterwards, 6 years afterwards. I worked for Nordstrom's in senior restaurant management.
Oh.
And that was kind of really my claim to fame. I did really well. I worked in the Palo Alto store, Hillsdale, Valley Fair, Oak Ridge. And then I was transferred down to work here in Southern California, which was a new concept, and opened up.
Wait, a new concept for Nordstrom's?
For Nordstrom's, because they have so many different restaurants. They had the cafe, they had the pubs, they had other styles of restaurants, and this was a really beautiful European boutique. We carried Alessi products and espresso machines and gourmet salads, and it was just really quite a learning experience. I went up against many people, and I was the person who they had chosen to run this new operation for them. And again,
were you happy to come back down here where your family was? Or?
I was very happy. You know, I love Northern California. It's super beautiful up there, but I am very family oriented, and I came back to be exclusively to be with my family.
And have a great job.
And I had an amazing job. I learned a lot. And I think the experience of that service, which I always had, but I learned so much working at Nordstrom's that I implemented all the professionalism and the level of professionalism in my own company.
Yeah, I see, yeah. So your family must have been really proud of you. Your mom.
Extremely proud.
Did you mention your dad, or did you lived with your grandparents and your mom, siblings? Or?
My parents were really young. My parents were 16 when they had me. And so essentially my grandparents on both sides of the family raised me.
That's so nice.
Yeah, yes. So I actually had 6 parents raising me.
Enough already. And you're an only child?
I am not the only child. I have I have another brother. Yes.
Younger.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is 43. Yes, I'm 13 years older than he is.
And did you think about doing a business together or anything like that with your brother? Or?
No, he came to work for me.
Oh, he did.
And it was for a short while. And I think he felt like food was not for him. Yeah.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, so you came back here, you're working for Nordstrom's, and then did you pretty much have the feeling you wanted to have your own business? Or
Absolutely.
own cafe? Or?
I worked so hard working at Nordstrom's. I was salaried, but I've always have had this work ethic since I was a young guy. And I love working. And I always felt and thought, if I'm doing this for a company, why couldn't I work hard and do this for myself? So, I ended up traveling Europe. I made fantastic money working for Nordstrom's.
Oh, I see.
The great thing about it was that I didn't have to work that hard, but I did because I was young and it kept me busy and it kept me out of trouble. And I made fantastic money, so there was nothing. I had vacations, and it was just really amazing benefits. I had health benefits. benefits, which was really important to me at that time. I ended up traveling Europe, as I mentioned, and I always knew that Say Cheese existed here because I grew up in the neighborhood and saw the cheese shop here. That when I came back, I fell in love with so many cheeses. I thought,
From Europe?
yes,
I see.
so many, and I thought, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And when I had come to the shop, one of my favorite experiences was being in Switzerland, having this amazing cheese called Vacherin Free Bourgeois, which is a very smelly Swiss cheese. And when I had come here, I had asked if they carried it.
To this shop?
The shop. And they said they did.
Oh.
And I thought, this is the place for me to work.
Right.
And
They'd be lucky to have you.
Well,
Yeah.
and they were, and so was I. And I worked at the time, she was the second owner for Julie Noyes. And I had walked through the door, gave her my resume, really super professional, well dressed with a tie. It was a bit much, I think, for this neighborhood. She saw how much I made on my working at
Nordstrom's, right?
And she felt that I was a bit overqualified. I told her, well, I live with my parents. I don't need to make a lot of money. I just need gas money for my car, for my phone, living with my parents. And so she pointed her finger in my face and she said, it was October 17th. And she pointed her finger, she says, as long as you stay throughout Christmas. And I just thought, it's October, Christmas, like.
Are you a flake? No.
Well, I understood later why she said that, but I sent thank you cards to her and she finally hired me. And so she said, I only hired you because of that beautiful smile that you have. She said, I just didn't think that you would last long here.
Because you were overqualified.
I was overqualified. She promoted me to manager 2 weeks later. She had already had a couple of managers, but she wanted me to manage the shop. And I understood why later she thought that I wouldn't stay. The shop was so busy, just flooded with customers coming in and out. There was a lot to learn. There were products, there were lots of cheeses. The cafe was packed. There was standing room on the outside only. It was super, super intense, high volume.
Wow. It was called Say Cheese?
It was called Say Cheese then.
And was it the store, did it also include the other spaces?
She had just opened up a couple of years ago, the cafe next door. And so the first owner were Jack and Esther. And they used to work at the Hub, which was before Trader Joe's. There was different sections, different in the market. They had like the cheese section. And that husband-wife team helped run that cheese section. And they came over to open up their own cheese shop in 1972. I believe the month was May. And they had it for 17 years. Julie worked for them for 1 year, and then she bought it from them.
I see.
And
What was Julie's last name?
Julie Noyes, N-O-Y-E-S. And Julie, the reason why she opened up the cafe was because they were doing caterings and gift baskets. And so they opened up the cafe to have Perrier, coffee, iced coffee, a few simple beverages, and I believe there was about 7 sandwiches that they had on the menu.
Limited menu.
Limited menu, just so that people can have a seat and wait for their platter or their gift baskets. And that's how that all began.
I see.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
So you were managing,
Yes.
and how many employees were there? Or?
I believe at the time she had about 10 or 12.
Oh my God!
employees.
Wow.
And Julie, I 3 years later, I worked for her for 3 years. She hired me October 17th, 1996. And she had put the business on the market.
Oh,
And it was on the
why?
market.
Why did she do that?
She was over it. It was 10 years, and it was just a lot of work, and it was a little bit exhausting. And
So she put it on the market.
yes, and she had asked me and the other managers if we would stay until after the new year, because fourth quarter is when we're really busy here in the shop. And she wanted to recoup as much money as she possibly could.
That's like the holidays.
That's the holidays, yes. And so I said, of course, absolutely. So I think I stayed until about the end of January, February. And I ended up getting a job at Sweet Lady Jane.
Oh, really?
Over in Melrose.
Yeah.
I worked for Jane and her husband Donald. And I ended up working there full time.
As a manager? Or?
As a manager in the evening time. And a couple of months later, Julie had called me and had asked if I could come back and help.
Oh.
And I said that would be great, because I plan on going to Europe that year and I could use some extra money. So I worked here pretty much full time, and then I worked evening times at Sweet Lady Jane full time. And Julie had so many people who was interested in the business.
Oh.
But then by the time they saw the books and everything, they just said no.
Oh.
And it was one early evening about 5 p.m. I was in the back office, and she was meeting someone who wanted to turn this into a sushi restaurant.
Oh my God. Oh.
And she thought it was going to be a done deal. I guess he told her no, and it was moments that she was back into the office where I was working on a charcuterie and cheese platter for the Jay Leno show, and I was putting together a platter for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh my God.
And,
a big place.
Yeah. And it was for their green room, and she went into the back office and she took her pencil and she threw it at the back wall.
Oh.
And I said, "What's wrong?
Yeah.
What just happened?" She said, "This business is yours. You can have it."
Oh my God, Glenn.
I said, "What?"
Oh.
She said,
Oh.
I told her, I said, I can't afford this, Judy. Julie, you know that. So she says, "I will make sure that you can afford it."
Oh. Oh.
And she said, "You have the strength, you have the energy." She says, "You're creative, you're perfect for it."
The passion, really.
Absolutely, the passion.
Yeah. And she knew it. She recognized that.
She recognized it.
Wow.
And so that's how that all started.
The universe is great.
Always.
Really.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So you took over, and did some of the other managers stay or employees stay?
A couple of people stayed. I ended up building my team up to about 12 as well.
Wow.
And during holiday time, it was 17. You know, St. Cheese was, honestly, I was not interested in changing the name. I had already worked here for 3 years. I knew the volume that was coming through the store. I knew the people. And I thought, what a great name. Why would I change it? You know?
It has a brand.
It has a
Or
brand.
it created a brand.
Yes,
here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it was on its way to being an institution, and I really, I really took it to a higher level. And it's just been a beautiful thing to be part of this institution.
Great. What was the higher level? I mean, some specifics like better cheeses and more gourmet food? Or?
I made lots of changes. I traveled extensively. I went to food shows and to seek out beautiful new product. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, Miss Ruby, she used to always teach us, the family, be odd, be different, be exotic. And I come from that family, that, you know, to be different, to have something that other people do not have, to not be
Stand out.
common.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so that's what has made my company so uniquely different from Trader Joe's, Gelson's, at the time it was Mayfair.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I looked for carrying beautiful exotic things that no one else could get their hands on. You know, we were known many years ago for this beautiful cheese, for a number of beautiful cheeses, but two of them really stand out. One we carry in spring and summer.
Wait for the siren to go by.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's called Brillat Savarin with pineapples on the outside.
Pineapple pieces in it?
Pineapple pieces.
Wow.
And it's exquisite. In the fall time, just in the beginning of the new year, we carry a brie that comes 45 minutes northeast of Paris.
Oh.
And it's a Maison de la Truffe, the house of truffles. And it's the most exquisite truffle brie cheese that you could ever get your hands on.
And you were able to import it?
I didn't do that. There were some things that I did import directly from Italy, from Paris, but we deal with brokers. And it was really up to me when I found things that I could then go to a broker and say, will you please pick this up and carry this for me exclusively? I will order XYZ dollar amounts. You know?
I see.
And so I've done that with a lot of products that I've carried on the shelf. Absolutely.
Did you continue to need a broker, or could you do it directly?
You know, I needed a broker. You know, there's so many different situations with the FDA.
Yeah.
You know, and things sitting out on the docks and spoiling, and
I see.
you know, we don't, small business not having the money for that or the resources.
Yeah.
So it's always been best to deal with brokers. I tried that. It was a bit of a headache. You know, sometimes they would call you at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to come and pick up the product. And I just thought, I have enough on my plate. You know, I don't need this.
Yeah. Well, it made the business go better, really, actually.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
right.
But we
So,
carry beautiful things real quickly. I'm sorry, like caviar from Petrosian Caviar. You know, we had exclusivity of that product. Neiman Marcus had exclusivity on the west side. Say Cheese had exclusivity on the east side. So we would do these beautiful, during my anniversaries, we would do these beautiful champagne and caviar tastings. They would come and put on white gloves and sample. You know, we had people like Hillary Bean, who was really big on pearls, and then we would have like an auction for that. And there were always fun things that we did that, you know, I brought to this community.
I was going to say, and the community really supported it.
The community totally and completely supported it, supported me. And, you know, I have always been a man of community. And I think that's why the community has been up in arms and really sad about this institution closing and leaving from this particular space. You know, there were times when my accountant used to always say, you give way too much, you really need to hold back. I never listened to her.
No. That's not you.
It's not me. I continue to give and to give and to give.
Yeah. And it kept growing.
My business kept growing.
Yeah. You stop just for a minute here. So, thank you. When would you say you felt like things really took off and you were just growing and getting more and more support? Am I asking that right? I don't know.
Yeah, totally. You know, it's such a great question. If I could just step back a little bit, Cheryl, you know, I was always confident in who I am because I was raised to be that man. But at the time, I had a lot of Caucasian workers and a few Latino workers. And I dared anyone to let them know that this business was black-owned. Because,
Really?
absolutely, even in this neighborhood. And my staff, they didn't understand it. boy, I had staff that stayed with me for a long time. And then when the word finally, about 3.5 years got out, afterwards, people knew Glenn Harrell, that African-American man, is the owner of that business. You know, sometimes there would be people that would come in and would say, "You're not the owner." And my staff was like mortified. And I said, "This is why I always,
Yeah.
you know."
Yeah, you had to protect yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't think that something would happen like this in 2000, 2001 at all. You know, we're in 2025 and it still exists to this day.
Yeah.
And it's something that will always be until the end of time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree, you know.
But I've had, I remember this one gentleman who was a very good customer, Scott, who was a realtor. He said, "You don't want people like that in your shop anyways." And I thought, yes, I do. Because the money, it's green. That's what keeps us alive.
It's reality.
Later, after really being super confident with myself, I thought, he was right.
Oh, really?
We don't
You don't
that
need
kind of
it.
person.
Yeah.
Why have that energy in the shop? We don't need it. And we saw it many, many times.
I'm a little bit curious about your family living here. Starting when? I mean, like in the 40s or?
1944, my grandmother always talked about it, moving to
Silver
Los
Lake?
Angeles. She actually on the east side of Los Angeles, on Central and Vernon, that area. And she...
In the 40s?
In the 40s.
Like Great Migration, kind of? She came
She
here?
came from Port Arthur, Texas. And she met her husband, my grandfather, Walter Robeson. And my grandfather was 16 years older than my grandmother. And my grandmother was 16 when she moved here.
I see.
And
But did they, so they lived around Vernon, in South LA, right?
Right, yes.
And then when did they move, decide, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, I don't mind at all. They actually didn't move to Silver Lake. It was my parents that
see.
moved to Silver Lake. Yes.
So your mom and dad were raised in South LA?
That is correct, yes.
And you said your grandfather was a chef, or your father?
My grandfather was a professionally trained chef,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, and why did your parents decide to move here?
Just, they loved it. You know, it's kind of funny, I never really asked that question.
Around what year was this when they moved here? Were you born?
I was born, we moved here when I was 7, actually. And it was in the 70s.
70.
It was mid-70s, maybe 74, I think.
And they always felt comfortable here?
Always felt comfortable
Good.
here, always loved it.
And your grandparents came with them?
No, they continued to live out in South Central.
Oh,
Yes.
so they didn't actually live here, I see.
No.
And what was the elementary school you said you went to?
Lockwood.
Lockwood.
Yes, that's
right.
off of Virgil, in Virgil Village.
Virgil Village,
Yeah.
Virgil Village, right.
Yeah.
And were you one of the few black kids?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
in all 3 schools.
Yeah.
You know, I always, it was interesting, you know, I didn't even hang out with the people of color, you know. I always hung out with the drama kids.
The drama kids.
We were always the strange ones. So it was a little cliquey.
Yeah, good friends.
And that was my team, you know.
I'm curious, did you know any of the Nicola family, you know, at LA?
I know him, and I knew him afterwards. I'm actually good friends with him. But growing up, they're a bit older.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're old. They're like
Yes.
more my age. I think.
As a matter of fact, he was my competition with trying to get the shop.
He was?
He kept coming in, trying to negotiate with Julie. And there was a couple of times I thought, oh wow, I could lose this opportunity. but she assured me that she had already had her word with
Yeah,
me.
you and mine.
Yeah.
'Cause we did interview Larry Nicola quite
Yes.
a long time ago, and they were Armenian, and he said they made their way and they were comfortable, but there was some prejudice,
Yeah.
But he said his father, they had some kind of shop on Fountain, and his father had a big barrel of pickles.
Oh, wow.
And he would invite his friends after school to come and get pickles, and that sort of won everybody over.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I love it.
So anyway, you made good friends. Do you still know some of those people from high school,
Oh,
from
yeah.
Marshall?
Word got out that I was always the guy. It's kind of like now that everyone knew, but I didn't know everyone.
Yeah, they knew of you. Yeah.
And so people would come in and say, "We heard you bought St. Cheese," and some I knew and some I didn't. All of my teachers, for the most part, is still to this day Mrs. Lee, my art teacher at Marshall, but Mrs. Erdos, my speech teacher, so my English teacher. There's been so many of them who have come in, and it's been really funny and interesting that my employees are like, "So was he good, or was he? Tell us about him." And what's really funny is like, what? And so my kids, my teachers would always say, Glenn was an excellent student. He was an honor student. We would read about him in homerooms about him going to state competitions.
In debate?
In debate, speech and debate, and theater. So
And you really excelled?
I really did, yes.
You never thought about running for office, being the mayor or anything?
It's so funny that you said that. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I sat on the neighborhood city council here in Silver Lake.
Oh, the neighborhood council?
Yes.
Oh.
For 3 years. And I was very successful, and I was very good. I couldn't really deal or stomach some of the minutia that comes along with it. But yeah, I'm really.
You're kind of political.
I am. And I'm really passionate about community. And this is one of the most amazing communities, and you know this because you live here and you've had a business. I know the interview is about me, but it's something that we share.
Absolutely.
And people who have not had a business here, they know that this is one of the last cities in Los Angeles that is really community driven, and how everyone knows everyone.
And wants to support the business. When I was the president of the chamber, we had a saying, the mall is evil. Shop Silver Lake. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots. I mean, my favorite was Keep the Silver in
Silver Lake, right.
That one was just like, wow, thought of that.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that was after me a little bit, but Baller Hardware has a sign, keep the silver in Silver Lake, right?
Yes, and it's so beautiful because I don't just know of those people, or I know the family. I know all of them, and it's beautiful to not only just know them, but to be friends with them. That's what's been really super beautiful.
I don't know how much time we have.
30 minutes.
Oh, 30 minutes more? Oh, how great. So if you were going to describe, I guess, a few words of how you would describe Silver Lake, what would you say? What is it about the community you loved?
I love the energy. I love the diversity. And there was an article, Cheryl, that I read many years ago, and I don't remember where, but there was a true statistics where they had did statistics throughout the city of Los Angeles, and the kids who went to their local high school, this was the #1 community where people stayed and continued to live in their communities. And again, I can't say enough about, it reminded me of the old days of my grandparents, how everyone was friendly, and they knew every single person who lived on their block.
This was in South Central, right?
Yes. And there are many communities and many places that I have lived in. Even when I moved up north, you know, we didn't have that.
Right.
I've lived in Pasadena, and you definitely don't have that. I create it wherever I go because that's who I am. But it's one of the beautiful things about living in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And, you know, the world is a lot safer when you can get along with your neighbor.
That's for sure.
And,
Yeah.
you know the person not next door to you, but the person who lives at the end of the block from you.
And you have an interdependence, you know, like if something
Absolutely.
happens, you're there for them,
Yes.
right?
Yes, yeah.
So did you find, you know, that, I guess, things like, I noticed on your door, the Girl Scouts, you know, drew pictures for you. And did you find from the beginning, or did it kind of grow that people and organizations and families from the community wanted to develop a relationship with you and your business, really?
You know, thank you. That's a beautiful question. I don't have any children. I love and adore children. I wish to this day that I could have had children. But before I even bought the business, some of my customers who I had great relationships with, there's nothing beautiful like seeing a couple who is starting their new family. And I don't know this through experience, but through imagination, through reading, through television, through conversations from people, that parents are tired with newborns.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And so my thing was, have a seat, relax, and have a date, and let me hold your kid for you. Let me hold this bundle of joy.
That's so great.
I've always been that man. And people have said to me, they moved in this community, in this neighborhood, because of me, because of Say Cheese. And I didn't do it for fashion, I didn't do it for show, it's who I am.
Right.
And, you know, when I read beautiful articles where I've been in, from Sunset Magazine to Vogue to Culture to all these amazing magazines, but one that gets my heart is when the Los Feliz Ledger, that was a throw paper in Los Feliz and Silver Lake, and they said that Say Cheese is the reason why property values are up in Silver Lake and Los Feliz, because of Say Cheese.
Yeah, that's funny.
I recently looked at a location after I was given 30 days to relocate, and I had gone to Atwater right next to the post office, and apparently I heard that the gentleman is a customer of mine, and I didn't get a chance to meet him. He had someone show me the place, but I talked to him, he was out of town, and he's like, there's so many people who are interested in my space, but we really want you.
Are you considering it?
I did consider it, but the build out is pricey, and I already have a debt here, and to carry another debt on top of a new debt just doesn't work for me. But how flattered am I?
Yeah.
Because I know that we do add value
Yes.
to a neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about how you envision your future, I think.
Yes.
Like, what would be your dream? What would be ideal, you know?
Before I tell you that,
Yeah, that's okay.
you wanted to know when did I start feeling, I believe.
Oh, that's right. That's where we started.
In my element. But I was 40 years old, and I had done a commercial for MasterCard Visa.
Oh, really?
And I worked from the interview to having costume to delivering my short lines, maybe 3.5, maximum 4 hours. And I made approximately $50,000.
Oh my God, wow.
And that's what I made personally, but I made more because so many customers flew in here. And it was during the time when, it was during the Olympics, and it was during the time when Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, was doing the debates during that time. And so I got a lot of phone calls from a lot of customers who had moved all over the US. My favorite was one here. A really good customer said, I was really sick and I had just had a stroke. And I saw your face and it just brought tears to my eyes and it made me so happy. I felt like I was healing when I saw your face. And I just thought, you know?
Wow.
And so, it financially, it really helped the business because times were really hard then.
It's around 2008 or a little before.
Yes,
Yeah, and there was
yes,
that crash.
Yes. And I started out, I got Say Cheese with a total business plan that was given to me from above. And I paid off my last business partner. And she was my favorite. She was really silent. Her name is Lavetta Willis, and she owned Donna Footwear. And I paid her off, and I was 40. I had just turned 40. And I felt so good, and I felt like I own this now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was 100% ownership, and it took me only 9 years to do that.
Amazing, yeah.
And so that's when I was totally in my element.
I see.
Where I felt like I was on top of the world, so to speak.
Yeah. So, do you feel like it was reflected somehow in your business then, that you were feeling more confident
Absolutely.
and really free? You
Yes.
were like, yeah.
That's a great word.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it felt
It
like.
freed up your
Free.
spirit, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So to answer your question, and if I could just step back a little
No,
bit.
please.
You know, I knew for the past 4.5 years that this day was coming. I tried to purchase the building, and the new landlords who own the property now, it's been 5 years, and I got outbid by them.
To buy the building.
To buy the building.
Yeah.
Because things were happening all over the world, but in Silver Lake then, where people were being booted out of their businesses
Right.
because rents were going up.
Yeah.
So this has been happening for a good solid 6 or 7 years now, but now it's completely and totally out of control.
Absolutely.
And they did give me the first rights of refusal. And, it was, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but, the asking was $9,000 plus triple that, which would have brought it up to about $12 grand
A month.
a month. And that's totally and completely impossible. I'm selling cheese,
Yeah.
And so, what made me think of telling the story, because you talk about feeling free, I have felt so limited and handcuffed as a business owner, where I felt like for the past 4.5 years, I've shared with my friends, my mother, that I just don't feel like a good businessman, and I can't make good, solid business decisions because my lease is up. And, there's a realtor who's working on behalf of the owners and showing my space to lots of people. People are coming in and out and have been for 4.5 years. And, I make this joke, Cheryl, where I tell my closest customers, who are my friends, right, that I brought the ghetto to Silver Lake because our awnings are just trash. this case here hasn't worked for 4.5 years.
Oh, really?
And we keep the bottled beverages in the walk-in.
Oh.
The espresso machine blew up.
Oh.
And the one that we bought was about 11 grand.
Mm.
And people who know me, I want the best because that's how I was raised. So I want the best one. The ice machine has broken down, so we keep ice in the freezer.
walk-in.
And so some people haven't understood, like, why is this broken down? I'm not going to put money in something when I could be out.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know the landlords, I'm only going to be given 30 days. So I'm very happy that I was solid on standing and making my decisions on doing those things. But how limited have I really been
At the same time, yeah.
at the same time, which is bringing me around full circle to answering your question. I am so saddened for this community,
Yeah.
but I am so excited for me because it's me and it's my life, and I don't have that limitation on me any longer. And that feeling, I can't tell you, has been so stressful for me.
To keep the business together, it's been stressful, or is that what you mean?
I haven't been able to make good, solid business decisions
Because you knew
because I knew
you were month to month.
I knew that I was month to month. And so, I get it. I've had time to wrap my head around all of this. I've had 4.5 years. And I remember an employee saying something, I think he thought he was being funny. I thought it was horrible. He says, you love your store so much, you're going to die in the store. And I say that because I love being in the store. I love the store. I love servicing. I love servicing so much. You know that a couple of people have gotten hit in this intersection, excuse me, and didn't make it.
And the shooting over here.
And I've always said that I would lie down in the middle of the road to make it safe so that my customer can enter into my door.
Yeah.
And, that's how much I believe in service. I am really deeply saddened for this community who has helped me build my business. In closing, I would like to say, in the past couple of weeks, I had a gentleman come through the door and say, this is exactly what is going on in our country today.
Yeah.
And I paused,
Yeah.
and I didn't say much, but I listened to it, and I thought, whoa. So that's what this customer said. A day or two later, I had another customer come and say how angry she was because this is no different than the destruction that's going on, and they're destroying, they being the landlords, our community. And I thought, so I linked the two together and I understood. And what I mean by that is I have had a vision, I have had an idea and a dream that I have brought to this community. And this community has supported that. And how beautiful is that? And so my point is, we have built something together and have made it strong. And it is unfortunate that it can't continue on. It could if I decide to go into another location, but it is really difficult to start.
Yeah. Well, what you built was precious. I mean, probably moving to another location couldn't really quite replicate everything you've done.
Absolutely.
But it is inside of you,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I so am very grateful
Mhm.
and thank this community and so many other communities who have come from all over Los Angeles
Mhm.
because they heard such great
Yeah,
things
yeah.
about what we were doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a little other part of my question, which was premature, and I apologize for it, but do you have a dream? I mean, for your future?
I do. I do. You know, I'm 57. I just turned 57 10 days ago. And
Your birthday. Yeah.
I have a mother who is lovely and her spirits are up, but she's confined to a wheelchair. I have a father who has Parkinson's, and I have a grandmother who's 94 years old,
Oh my God.
who's in a convalescent home, and I go and see her. I try to every week, but I want to see her more often.
Mhm.
My dream is to spend more time with my family and be with them.
And you said you might be selling the business?
So
Possibly?
yes.
Possibly?
So that's the light,
Mhm.
and that's the good news, is that, you know, I've had great intentions on actually working out of a customer's kitchen, restaurant, doing caterings and gift baskets.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do, and
Mhm.
we do that well for lots of people, for lots of movie stars and entertainers. But I just had someone recently who was a really good customer of mine, and I proposed my business to her.
Mhm.
And I've been like the Julie Noyes, and what I mean by that is I've offered my business to 2 of my employees.
Mhm. She offered to you, she chose you, and you're
She did,
choosing.
and I have offered it to 2 employees who turned it down. Now I just offered it to a really good customer, and it's not to make money and get rich, it's to just pay off the debt of CG's
I see.
and walk away.
Mhm.
And I shouldn't say walk away, because I told her that I would work with her for a good solid year.
Oh, you did?
I did, and I'd be happy
That's
to.
so great.
Because I would want her to be successful. And what I love about her name is Allison, is that she's all about community. And I thought, what a perfect person.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to sell to somebody who wasn't all about community, I'm
No.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good, Glenn. It does. You're smiling, you seem happy, and I'm sure your family is so grateful to you. Really,
They are.
so proud of you. Really.
They really are.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
great. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you for your time.
Yeah, and like I said, this will go into the community history section of the Doheny Library at USC.
Oh, wow.
And it'll go up on YouTube. People just have to Google your name. It'll come Silver Lake History Collective interview.
Oh, great.
And the people access that a lot.
Sure.
And sometimes we publish the link of our interviews with the community online newsletter, Silver Lake Together, and all of
Yeah.
that. So
Fantastic.
I'm so glad they'll know your story. Really.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm not forever gone.
No,
And I know
no,
that
good.
you're super involved in the
Yeah.
community. and
Yeah.
Anything that I can do and be of service,
Right.
please let me know.
Okay, maybe you
I-
want to join our committee?
I would be honored.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Glenn.
Thank you.
Are we good?
I needed to do this anyways, so. Betty, can you give me a towel, please?
Okay. All right. 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 All right.
Glenn, can you tell us a little about what you're prepping today and where this is going, and anything you can share with us without divulging secrets?
Oh yeah. It is a platter that I'm doing for one of our regulars for Blackbird, and this is some of the work that we do on a monthly basis. So they order a cheese and charcuterie board. Eddie, can you hand me a spoon, slot spoon?
And what's this here you're doing, Glenn?
We are working on a crudité, a vegetable platter.
For the same client?
For the exact same client, yes.
Okay. So go ahead and
It looks horrible in here right now.
yours. Did you have to build all this?
This was built when I came. St. Cheese has been here since 1972. I'm the third owner. And I've had it for 26 years. And the owner before me had it for 10. And the original owner had it for 17 years.
And do you stay in contact with any of the previous ones?
So the first owners, they passed away, husband and wife, Jack and Esther. And Julie, I still keep in contact with, who sold it to me.